Hello and welcome to the CTO show with Mehmet. My name is Mehmet, and in each episode, I will be exploring the latest trends, insights, and strategies in topics like cybersecurity, digital transformation, emerging tech, startups, and entrepreneurship. From thought leaders and innovators to entrepreneurs and founders, we will hear from experts across a wide range of industries who are driving change and making an impact in the world of tech and business. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to today's episode. Platform and vendor lock-in is a common concern for businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and indie makers, especially when building on top of other platforms or relying on specific vendors. While leveraging existing platforms and vendors can provide significant opportunities, there are risks to consider as well. In this episode, I will be focusing on the concept of platform and vendor lock-in, discuss opportunities and risks, and share some eye-opening examples from few news that evolved in the past couple of weeks. And I want to emphasize why big companies and platform vendors and owners shouldn't control the destiny of smaller companies, entrepreneurs, and indie makers. Let's get started. First, let's try to understand a little bit about the background of platform and vendor lock-in. Platform and vendor lock-in occurs when a company becomes heavily reliant on a specific platform or vendor's product or services, making it difficult or costly to switch to an alternative solution. This dependence can be a double-edged sword, offering opportunities for rapid growth and scalability, but also posing risk related to control and flexibility. To give you a little bit of background, some products evolve with time to become a network. And this network becomes so big that other makers, whether they are companies, whether they are solopreneurs, start to build applications which leverage this network. Take, for example, applications built on top of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and so on. Or think about products that tackle specific areas from a product or a service. So think, for example, about a service that monitor cloud consumption or a service that monitor a security aspect in a product. They need to leverage APIs, they need to leverage many other things. So this is where you are actually leveraging another big player to build your own product. Leveraging established platform and vendors can provide businesses and entrepreneurs with several advantages. First, you would have access to large user base where you will be building on top of this popular platform, and it can help businesses reach a wider audience more quickly. The second advantage is that you would be reducing your time to market and development cycle because utilizing existing infrastructure and existing databases can save time and resources, allowing these startup companies and entrepreneurs to focus on their core offerings. The third advantage is ecosystem benefits, where you will be able to participate in a larger ecosystem which provide access to valuable resources, partnerships, and support. However, there are also risks to consider. The first thing, loss of control. Relying heavily on a single platform or vendor can lead to a loss of control over your product roadmap, pricing, and other critical aspects of your business. Let me give you an example. If a company built an app that count the consumption of particular service in the cloud without naming any cloud provider using a specific API. So you build a product for monitoring, and then all of a sudden, the platform or the provider decides to close this API. So this is affecting your roadmap. It's affecting actually your existence. The second risk is changes in platform and vendor policies. Platforms and vendors can change their policies or APIs. For example, there were several use cases or events where these platforms or vendors decided to change the policy, and all of a sudden, many entrepreneurs and companies found themselves lost. I remember when Apple decided to change the policy of their App Store, a lot of people were impacted. Recently, Twitter changed their policy regarding how you consume their APIs, and it really hurt some indie makers and entrepreneurs who were trying to build useful apps to serve the audience of these platforms. The third risk, limited customization. Building on top of a platform or a specific vendor can limit your ability to customize your product or service sometimes, potentially hindering innovation and differentiation. This is why I see the importance of independence. While leveraging existing platforms and vendors, as we discussed, provide a lot of opportunities, it's essential to recognize and to count into consideration the importance of maintaining independence. The first thing you can do, in my opinion, is to try to diversify your dependencies. Try to think how you can avoid relying solely on one platform or vendor. Because if you don't do this, you have a huge risk, and to reduce this risk associated of vendor lock-in or platform lock-in, you need to think about alternatives. The second thing which can be done is to prioritize data portability. Ensure that your data can be easily exported and migrated from the platform you have built your app or services around, because at some times you need to think that there will be a need to shift to another platform, and you need the flexibility and control over the information that you have. The third thing, you should be following platforms and vendors who have kind of advocacy for open standards, because advocacy for open standards can encourage and promote a more flexible and interoperability approach when it comes to providing services. And such approach can prevent larger companies and providers from dominating the market. The reason I brought this topic today, as I said, because in the past 2-3 weeks, I started to see a lot of people who are now struggling with changes in policies, changes in pricing, changes in roadmap, and with new technologies emerging and going towards becoming a network themselves, and I will give you an example in a short moment, we need to be very aware of the situation. I will give 2 more examples about what I have seen. So the first thing, some no-code platforms, they decided to change their pricing policies. Now, a lot of solopreneurs, they have built systems on top of these no-code platforms, and because of the pricing changes, they have now to go and think out how they can afford keeping profitable with these changes. We discussed also the Twitter API, how they changed the policy of accessing the API. They changed the pricing as well. And I have seen a lot of people going out and saying, I have to shut down my app because I cannot afford it. I believe there should be no company that control the whole thing. My expectation that we might see a lot of more, unfortunately, of these events. For example, now OpenAI, the developer of ChatGPT, is attracting people to develop apps on top of their APIs and on a very fast pace because the generative AI revolution is here. But we need to be very careful because OpenAI controlling the model, the data, the pricing, you need to think long term and make sure that you are ready for the change if it happens. This doesn't apply only when coming to open AI or similar companies. It applies, as I said, in general to any concept where you have a single source you rely on to offer your service. If this service goes down, your business will go down. So what you're going to do? There is an importance for independence and to be informed about the decisions. There's a right at least to give people enough time about the changes if they are coming. And we should advocate, I would say, that the destiny of startups, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, indie makers should not be controlled by this big network company. This is a call for everyone to think about this topic. I understand that these companies, they have invested heavily to reach the phase where they became network themselves. But at the same time, we need to keep an environment, an ecosystem where smaller companies, startups, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, they can still thrive. I hope you find this episode useful. And as usual, if you have any comment, any feedback about this episode or the show in general, please don't hesitate to reach out to me either by email or LinkedIn or Twitter. And if you are listening to this podcast episode, don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends and colleagues. And until we meet in the next episode, thank you very much for listening. See you soon.